My name is Emily Tomlin, and my partner Ashley Carter and I are both zoology majors pursuing a career in veterinary medicine. We both have a strong love for all species of animals and want to learn more about them. Because of our loving, strong bond with animals, Ashley and I decided to do our project on a pheromone called bombykol that is found in female silk moths.
Bombykol is noted as C16H30O, which looks like this. Its systematic name is EZ1012-hexadecadienol. It has a 16-carbon long main chain with an alcohol group and two carbon-carbon double bonds.
As stated, bombykol is a pheromone that female silk moths use to attract male silk moths. A pheromone is a chemical secreted by a given organism that will then evoke a response from another member of their same species. This response is generally behavioral, and the whole process acts as a form of communication. Bombykol was the first pheromone to be identified and synthesized. Credit goes to Adolf Butenandt in 1959, who had just won a Nobel Prize in 1936 for his work on sex hormones. Research on pheromones started decades before this, however, with a French naturalist named Fabre. One of Fabre's most notable experiments involved putting a female silk moth in a box for a few hours, then removing her and leaving the empty box overnight. He found that male silk moths were still attracted to the box despite the female's absence. What Fabre discovered was a chemical trail of pheromones, and that smell, not sight or sound, guided male moths to females. Incredibly, male silk moth antennae have single-molecule sensitivity to bombykol based on electrophysiological recordings with a response time of just half a second.
In a male silkworm moth, their antennas contain 15,000 to 20,000 sensilla. Half of these sensilla are used to detect bombykol. There are microscopic openings in the waxy cuticle in which the bombykol enters the sensilla. These microscopic openings or pores allow airborne odorants to enter while also decreasing the evaporation of the aqueous solution or sensillary lymph. The pheromone then has to go through the sensillary lymph to interact with the membrane-bound pheromone receptor. This requires a pheromone binding protein. These chemical sensors' molecular mechanisms are unknown, but there is evidence that there has been an effort for many olfactory-specific proteins such as pheromone receptors, pheromone binding proteins, and pheromone degrading enzymes. Furthermore, a second pheromone component called bombykol excites another kind of receptor cell and suppresses the behavioral response to bombykol, but still the function of bombykol is unknown.
Butenandt did the heavy lifting in terms of chemical research on this pheromone that Fabre had discovered. He was able to purify a crude pheromone mixture obtained from gland extractions of female silk moths by fractional distillation, since modern techniques like mass spectrometry were unavailable. After several cycles of purification, Butenandt used infrared spectroscopy, which was relatively new at the time, to determine the presence of an alcohol group, the two carbon-carbon double bonds, and a variety of chemical degradation methods to determine the length of the carbon chain. He then confirmed the structure by making bombykol from scratch. After preparing all four geometric isomers, he found that one in particular was at least 1 billion times more effective at exciting male moths.
After years of research, Butenandt and his colleagues found that a concentration of 10 to 12 micrograms of bombykol per milliliter of solvent would produce a flutter dance in about 50% of male moths. Weirdly, the fruit fly is very sensitive to the sex pheromone of the silk moth, bombykol. The detectors of the fruit fly are more sensitive than the receptors of the silk moth, but its ecological significance is unknown. Mature moths exist to reproduce. They do not even eat during their short lifetimes. Bombykol is extremely important in the female silk moths, as it allows them to attract a male successfully in order to reproduce. Without this pheromone as a form of communication, the silk moths will not be able to reproduce successfully. Their very livelihood is dependent upon it.